You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to dive into the current state of content creation. A lot of questions popping up recently, around it. What's going on? I mean, there's everything, with the LLMs and where these are going to make the right product recommendations, what they're grabbing. There's Rufus, there's Amazon, there's content you need for TikTok, your social media feeds. It's near overwhelming at this point in time, and it's not getting a whole lot cheaper yet. I think a lot of people were thinking AI tools were going to make it a whole lot cheaper, but nonetheless, have Josh Fulmer here. They've been great friends, partners, supporters of the network for a while now. Josh, I don't mind. Yeah, you want to jump in, tell people like your background, where you're at now, what you're doing, and then we can kind of just jump into the conversation. Does that sound good?
That sounds really great, Aaron. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Fulmer. I'm an executive creative director with Lunge Marketing. I also work with a company called Market Defense. So I work across portfolio there with our agency group. My workplace right now is doing creative direction for brands anywhere from plumbing all the way to beauty projects. I worked with just a myriad of different companies and what they do. My journey, how I got here, was very unique to say the least. I worked as a design manager before my creative direction days. Before that, I spent about a decade in the bartending industry, and then I spent about 8 years in military service as a Marine. So I've had a very odd life path to get here, but almost all the time it's had creatives in it in some way. Anywhere from being a content creator to someone that's done marketing to video production to editing, and really just had a good look at the overall channel as a whole around creatives. So I'm pretty excited about this subject and kind of how it looks like in today's industry, especially with AI coming into play.
So where are we at right now? I'm sure you're getting a lot of the same questions I am. How does a brand tackle the content creative needs that it has? And what I see is in the past, it's just a request has popped up and then people chase it, and a request has popped up and people chase it. And we're at a point now where those requests are popping up so much. It's almost like there needs to be a plan put together ahead of time. And maybe that's part of annual planning now that gets built into the marketing. But I'd love to hear your thoughts here as well.
Yeah, I think the overall, you could call it, economy of content creation right now is pretty diverse, and it is very disrupted with AI, right? There's a lot of conversation on, oh, can I run this through VO and can I make an ad that way? Can I run this through Nano Banana for static images? And there's a lot of confusion on where you could save money in theory, right? And that's what everybody gets excited about, is your P&L being brought down because you can do a lot of automation. When you look at it as a whole, it's a nice idea, but generally speaking, as creatives, and as people that consume creative content, that when it's AI created, you understand when that happens. So something I preach and tell to everyone I work with is viewing these AI tools as a stepping stone and as a process within your workflow, and with that and the whole creative ecosystem. It's really acknowledging that if you're a content creator, that you aren't losing your whole marketplace, right? There are people that are investing in that, but there are so many people that consume media in so many different ways that there is still access to you, and never be terrified of what AI is doing. But I do think that it's a very disrupted marketplace right now, with people utilizing AI to make videos, to make static images, and to try to streamline their process. But what I've seen with a lot of brands that just come in and say, we're going to use AI. I think we had a similar conversation about leveraging AI. And when you just say, use AI to make this better. Okay, cool. What does that even mean? So if you're someone who isn't deep into AI and properties and understanding how that ecosystem works, you say, okay, use AI and make this better. So you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to make a video for this. And then you come out of that with this just gnarly piece of product that has nothing to do with your brand recognition, your strategy, and can really break consumer trust. So when you are looking at diving in, if you're a brand owner and you're like, oh, I'm going to use AI to solve our video production because we don't have the budget to break into that world, but we know that we need it to get into this space, right? Video is everything. Everybody scrolls, watches videos. I want to use this budget. I want to use AI, and we're going to just produce videos. Okay, well, who is going to do that for you? Is it going to be an intern? Is it going to be a creative that you already have capped out doing something else that is a brand manager that hasn't touched GPT or understands how VO prompting works? I think there is a lot of reflex of I want to be on this before the train goes away, and not a thought process on how you are actually solving that reflex. I've been talking for a minute. I'll pipe down for a second.
No, I love it. I mean, it's interesting because you can go to the small brands, you can go to the Fortune 500. They tackle different things, right? And even if you look at the larger enterprise level brands, they have bigger needs. But to your point, they have to be on brand.
Yeah.
Right. And I see a lot of executive teams at these companies demanding, cutting budgets in this hope that people are going to be using AI because of all the promise that has been there for AI. And yet at the same time, like, these tools don't work as well as everybody had hoped that they were. And I think a lot of that is, as they get applied from group company to everybody's company right now is data is a different spot, a different PIM, a different DAM, a different ERP, a different CRM. And so these tools are really good. It's kind of like a sticking point I've had where I'm hoping that there becomes a standardization around data that all these AI tools can plug into. But until there is, every AI tool has to be retrained on exactly what you're doing. That's a 6 to 9 month process. And then maybe that tool is obsolete in 6 to 9 months, or it's not still around.
It's such a fast moving industry. And one thing you said there is like saying, hey, if you're a big enterprise brand, you need to adhere to your brand guidelines. You need to make sure your brand voice is consistent if you're a legacy brand. I wouldn't argue this, but I would say that even as a small brand, you need to build that brand trust for your customer lifetime retention around building your consistency across the board. And regardless if you're little or big, like, you need to make sure you're lining up that, right? So when you're content creators, you don't have a UGC person who is super outside of what you think that your actual brand pillars are, right? And yes, if you're a smaller company, you're just starting up, sure, someone might be something where you're testing it. And what I mean by this, let me back this up. In the broad scheme of things, if I am starting up a company and I'm doing a company around mountain biking, right? I have a nonprofit around mountain biking. That's super cool. And I'm like, oh, I want some UGC content. So I'm gonna break into this world. I'm gonna try one test with AI and it worked out okay, but I'd rather just hire someone now because I understand that is still part of this process. When you're looking at your brand identity and your continuity across the board, if I hired someone who like is big into mountain bikes visually, but isn't really a rider, that's not really going to be true to my brand. If someone is like a spokesperson for mountain biking, but you never actually see them out on the trail. So really what I'm trying to say with this part of the message is that you need to look at what you're getting across within content creation. Is it true to your brand? And are you building that trust? Because I, as a mountain biker, will know if you just have someone that's up there talking about it and saying they're excited about it, and they don't actually ride bikes. The verbiage they use, right? When you get into these niche marketplaces, you understand when someone's actually in that marketplace and someone's just a brand ambassador. So it's been very interesting to see how that fluctuates in today's world as well, with TikTok and people breaking into certain niches when they might not really even be in that world. So it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of it from the standpoint, if I am a brand and a new brand, like, how much content do I need? Where are all the spots I need to make it for? How do I keep it, in that case, on brand? How am I finding the right people? But I can't afford.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day. I can't afford it. How do brands approach that? And then, is there like a process that you have? Because I think where we're at right now is brands need to be planning for this. We're in Q4 now. Wow, it's
gets you real quick, doesn't it?
The older I get, the faster time goes. Right? Everybody says that. All the old people say that, and then all of a sudden you're one of them saying it. You're like, wait a minute. But we're in Q4. We're in planning season for next year. what are those areas? And you're saying the shift to video is happening, and I agree. People don't want to read anything anymore, right?
Yeah.
Even video reviews and content, that's a focus now, right? Is
Yeah.
not only do I get content on the page and the right content, but not only how do I get social media and UGC content, but how do I get a lot of that UGC to be actually used as a review?
Yeah.
How are brands, like, do you see them just putting together full blown content generation plans for next year as well?
Yeah, I think you need to look at your strategy, right? You said, I heard you say, how do I get to all these different channels? How do I get this much product out and get reviews on it? So in my mind, part of your forecasting and market strategy should be figuring out where your target market lives, right? Does your target market live on Amazon? Does your target market really live on TikTok? And if you want purchases on Amazon, are you driving your target marketplace from TikTok to Amazon? Like figuring out your strategy of what you want your purchase patterns to be. And then when you are making that investment, be it a big or small one, figuring out exactly how you can truly target that pipelines, right? So if let's go back to the bike company analogy, right? Let's say I've got my nonprofit around bikes, but I want to launch a new product that's going to be some bike handlebars. And for my bike handlebars, I'm really excited because I know my local marketplace will buy them, but I really want to scale. And so I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to get all this content out? So instead of just looking at it like, hey, I need to buy in on a UGC and invest X amount of dollars across this portfolio, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to blast this out to 20 people, let's take a little bit more time on our market research. Let's do a little bit more scaling on our strategy and say, okay, well, I know these 3 people are what my consumers watch. And I'm going to send out a thank you kit and a proposal, do a lower budget than they might usually do, but maybe with some agreement of, hey, we'll get you a sponsorship package. So you're still giving them value, right? Like I will say that as someone who has done content creation, is you don't ever want to just do something for free, right? That's not really legible, and you aren't giving any value if you're giving something for free, because how are you going to trust someone that doesn't value their own time? So you don't want that, right? But you do want to say like a thank you. You do say, hey, I know your budget's usually about this. We can give you these products. We can give you about half that budget. And then we can also give you a sponsorship opportunity for this time. Something around that to balance where you're getting a little bit of that play on your strategy of investment, but getting creative about that if you don't have a huge budget, or if you do have a relatively okay budget, targeting that budget to a marketplace that's going to care more. So for these bike handlebars, I'm going to target a content creator that's local to me because I know he's going to hit my full marketplace, and I know a lot of the people in my industry are going to follow them. I'm going to hit one local to East Coast because I'm on the West Coast and I want to target the East Coast a little bit too as I go global. And then I'm going to hit one either in like Whistler, BC, Canada, because that's a big biking hub, or in like New Zealand. And my budget was initially allocated for 20 creators. And I said, no, I'm going to dial it down to 3. I'm going to push it out to these 3 because I believe my reach is going to be better and more impactful for conversion and not just a wide net. That's how I would approach it. Hopefully I didn't get too off topic there.
No, I love it. I think it is the strategy piece. I think the strategy piece now is more complicated than it's ever been before. And walking through things like that, like you don't have to overcome. More is not always better.
Yeah.
Right. In that case. And if you do have a limited budget, I mean, the reality is you have to be very, very strategic with it. So
Yeah.
I also like the way you're walking through, like, where do I want this to actually live at the end of the day? What does the path to purchase look like? This path to purchase has been around forever. There's the Path to Purchase Institute, Path to Purchase Institute Summit. Path to Purchase is there. What does that look like? Where are they going to end up? And then I can backfill from there the content that I need, the content strategy to fill the funnel. And then I can look at, hey, how much do I need? And then if I can't do it, are there AI tools that can help me get it there?
Yeah. I think one thing that I would encourage a lot of business owners, small or big, to think about is when you're building out your business plan, your strategy, if you're just launching or if you're doing a refresh when you're coming into a new year, actually put time into those user personas, right? That is something primarily developed for initial business plans, but it's really built out in like the UX world of web development. Establish what your user persona, what your shopping profile is, see how they spend their money. Do they do tap to pay? Do they do on their phone? Do they purchase on their phone with Shopify? And figure out how they do their purchase patterns, and then invest in a strategy that pushes towards that target marketplace and not a broad net, because you can have your broad net budget, right? But when you are really trying to push a product or break into that content creation for something specific, going back to our main subject, you need to invest that money in a way that it actually is focused and not such a broad look, right? You can do your Instagram campaigns, but if your target marketplace is in their 50s, why are you spending money on Instagram? They don't live there. Spend money on Facebook, spend money on mailers, spend money on physical mailers. Like, you have to consider how your target persona is actually living and give them the path to actually purchase. So within the content creation, that's there too, right? So I record a video a lot differently than I would for Instagram than I would for TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook. I don't use Facebook anymore, but if I did, my video production would be much different for that than it would be for Instagram. It's high rapid turnaround. And then around all that, my video production for just content as a UGC is much different than how I edit and create video for e-commerce as a conversion tool. So that's part of the consideration too, right? As a content creator, if I am selling those handlebars and I do my cool story and I told them how much I love them, am I doing a call to action? Am I telling them to purchase it on Amazon? Am I driving a conversion with that content, or am I just a creator to make a creator? Like, those are all things that are part of the picture, right?
Yeah. How does it then fold in on the written side? Like, because at the end of the day, all of this content we're creating, the idea is we want to drive them to some form of a landing page to convert.
Yeah.
How do you look at, like, so then there's demands, there's static image demands, but even then on Amazon, videos are huge now. Like, how does all of that, how do you look at that piece from a content creation standpoint? Because I think in the past, a lot of times people talk about content creation, they're talking about PDP, the Amazon detail page, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Not necessarily 100 videos.
Yeah. I think so. Content creation for me as a whole, one tool that I've learned, developed, fine-tuned, whatever you want to call it, is when I look at, okay, let's go back to the product launch analogy. I've launched these handlebars. So I'm going to launch a white paper saying, hey, we're launched these. It's a huge blog post. We're super stoked, super detailed on it. And that's my main piece of information that I'm basing everything off of. The verbiage, it's like almost like a miniature style guide for that product in a way, because the way you're speaking about it, the excitement around it, the tone of voice, where you think it'll succeed, everything like that. I then do a long form video. So let's say for this specific long form, it's handlebars. We'll say 5 to 10 minutes for a product launch video. I now can take that 5 to 10 minutes and chop that down into 15 to 30-second blocks, or even shorter for things like sponsored brand videos on Amazon. Now I've got probably 30, 40 videos at least for content. And then with that verbiage that I've noticed and built into that white paper, I now convert that for my landing page, my Shopify or my Amazon page, and I make sure I'm using those same types of words. I don't, in any part of this consumer journey, I don't want them to be like, wait, why did this change? Sure, the overall visual representation might change of Amazon versus Shopify, but as they go through that shopping experience, I want them to be like, oh yeah, this is the same type of words I heard, right? Like, this is a rad product, right? It says buy now. When you go to the A plus, it's got some really groovy terms, right? Like, you want that overall messaging around the product to feel the same. And so when you're talking about, okay, well, how do you get the content that's written on that? You can take a lot of it from your dialogue that's in those long form contents, or using quotes from your UGC, right? If you have someone that's done this really awesome UGC video and they're notable in the community, you pull that term and you put it into a quote on your A plus, and you put it at the top of the A plus. So as soon as they're scrolling, they see that quote, or on your PDP imagery, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can pivot and take that content in a way that is more impactful. I will say something I see a lot of brands struggle with is taking that content and making it specific to that brand, right? Like, because the way I design, again, for Shopify is gonna be much different than Amazon. So when I take that quote, I don't want the full quote for Amazon. I want like my main purchase point, and then I want to bring it into a PDP or A plus, and I want to make it digestible rapidly. When someone's shopping on mobile, I want them to see that and go, oh yeah, dude, okay, let's get those handlebars.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting because there's a huge focus on, I think this is where, follow me on this little path a little bit, is what AI, what content generation is going to allow for rapid content generation. But a lot of what you're talking about is staying on brand,
Yeah,
right? A customer is looking for a brand tone, a brand voice. And when you're producing stuff at a slower rate, it's easier to check it and keep it on brand, right? Whereas if you're rapidly doing it and you're off by just a percentage or two, that's can rapidly spin out of control and get totally off brand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be a point in time where we have AI tools to do a lot of this just from a cost effective standpoint. But then I'm thinking that I'm explaining as a brand executive to my executive team, here's why we're not doing it quite yet.
Yeah.
Here are the issues. We need to stay within these guidelines. We all agree. We have our brand tone. We have our brand images. We know how people view us and the target demographic. We know who our target audience is. And when you let this thing run rampant, it's going to be just left to center, and we're going to start missing more and more.
Yeah. So look at it this way, right? If you are in that position, right? Let's say you're a CD, so you're a creative director, and you're talking to your exec team. They say use AI, make videos with AI, do this. Say, okay, well, I want you to look at this way. Let's take a step back. If you want me to use AI for this brand, we need to then train an LLM on it, right? We need to train an LLM to understand what our brand tone, our values, and to do that, it's going to take a while. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some investment. And if I don't know how to do it, I need to hire someone to do it. So already now you're comparing cost of hiring someone that can then program an LLM versus someone that can just record video for you. So what's the balance there, right? What's your budget constrictions? Okay, well, we built this LLM. Now we've got long-term creation. Okay, well, the LLM is trained on how to do it one way. And so if you've got a new campaign coming up, what happens when you shift gears? Okay, you need to do a retraining. You need to invest that time over and over again. Oh yeah, is your LLM run on a local system or is it run cloud? Is it your own server stack? Have you invested in a server stack now? Are you outsourcing to something else? Are you using something like Invoke Studios or Midjourney or whatever that might be? One thing, just this kind of reflex in my mind, is I've heard people say, "Oh yeah, use VO to do that. Use Google VO to do it." VO slays it; they do a really good job. But as soon as you do like 2 or 3 renders, you're out of credits for the day. Okay, well, I need this project by tomorrow, and I've only recorded 30 seconds of video, and it has not given me enough content where I need to put this out. Whereas if I know I have a video producer or a UGC where I have that content, I can get all that pretty quickly. I understand that. So it's a lot of just navigating the, okay, sure, your budget, you want to save your cost there, but recognizing the value of working with a UGC team or a professional video studio and saying, hey, I need this much content. Let's do a long form. Let's do a half-day shoot. Okay, half-day shoot, let's say it's X amount of dollars. Is that the same or less than that LLM? And that LLM being retrained, how much content do you get out of that? So it's almost like weighing your deliverables on that. It's almost like a creative P&L in a sense, right? Your deliverables on your ROI for hiring someone for a studio shoot versus, okay, I've got an LLM now. And sure, there is ways to tie in some of that, right? You could do some short clips with the VO just to have like offhand content, right? For LinkedIn posts to grab attention, sure. But if you were doing something that's actually going to impact your brand or a product launch or something where you want to see a true ROI, I will time and time again encourage people to look at actual studios or UGC content.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. For at least for the foreseeable future, at some point in time, that could change.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. What people forget is that these LLMs need to be trained.
Yeah.
And they need
It's
to
no
be trained. And anybody who's used it on a routine basis, like we were talking a little bit, like I use it for a newsletter, right?
Yeah.
That I can easily, we have a lot of follow-ups. We do a couple hundred webinars. I get follow-ups. Hey, can you get, I can't meet with everybody from everyone.
No.
What we can do is we can get a LinkedIn newsletter, and I can take the transcript from this, dump it in there. I've trained it, right, to kick out the format that I need, and it won't take out that M dash, that huge one. Like, it doesn't matter how many times I ask it to, it does not do it. It's a telltale sign, right? So I have to go through and edit it. But the interesting thing is, even if I trained it and it took a while to get it to do it, I have agreed upon format. I asked it to kick it out, and it couldn't pick up on. So I said, "Hey, create the next version of the newsletter." I'd done it with a really cool partner, and it kicks out. It makes up people's names.
Yep.
Whole new topic.
Yep.
Key takeaways. Right. Next action items on something I didn't even talk about or cover with a made up
Anybody. Yeah.
and a made up agency. Then I asked it, I'm like, whoa, what just happened? Like, how did you get these names? How did you get all this stuff? And it's like, oh, I couldn't recognize that. I didn't catch the first name of this person. So I made up everything after this point. And I'm like, would I ever do that again? Right. Like, but to my point is like, people are being asked every day to employ these tools. And this training piece is huge. You have to train it over and over and over and over again. And then even once you've done, you still have to go back and double check everything it's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what's funny about the EM dashes. I would check out weighted prompting. If you're working with an agent that allows weighted prompting, you can like put more weight on that specific command. It's kind of fun. And then in your overall workflow, hearing you say that, right? Like just a little bit off topic, but you could build out an agent to go and scrape through whatever content it sends you before it comes to you to make sure there's no EM dashes. So it saves you a little bit of time, but it's another step in that process, right? And so when we're looking, let's look at when you just said, hey, you've trained it to do this, and now it just spit out all this information to you. So let's look at the business perspective, right? Hey, we want to do AI video with this. Okay, so you tell your creative team to spend a week doing AI video. They do their AI video and they cannot get it to process right. Now you've burned a whole week of however many human hours, right? And you've just lost all that investment, right? So when we're looking at this subject specifically, it's the solidification we've had of AI within our world and our community and how we interact. That is mostly text based. The build of static imagery, that's building as well. The best prompts people get is when they say it to mimic an artist, right? And that's a big qualm in the moral of around that, right? If I'm just saying mimic this artist, just train on all their work, why am I not just buying that artist's work? So that's a moral dilemma there. But when we're looking at how solidified the text is and the reasoning, and then the static images, the video is not solidified. So when you're looking at content creation like this, you'll still see those weird hand images. You'll still see weird things that you know are AI created. So when you're looking at a investment into a project, again, like I said, product launch, whatever it might be, as soon as someone sees something like that, they're going to get that like, ugh, I don't know about this anymore. Like, I know this company is like a standard in the industry and they have some money. Why are they taking a shortcut on this? Why does this look like whatever that is? Like, so you have to have that consciousness too.
Yeah. I mean, there's some things like, the big last year's holiday Coca-Cola commercial, right? Was, all CGI. And I know a lot of marketers that were up in arms about it. Like, oh my gosh, how could you do this? But everybody I saw, like if they're outside of the digital space, like family and friends, I thought it was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
They didn't care. So there's also that spot. Like, at what point are we being overcritical as well?
Yeah.
But I just thought that was funny because I was, talking to some families like, hey, did you see it? What'd you think? Like, oh, that was pretty sweet. I was like, oh, okay. Nobody didn't like it.
I don't know if I saw that specific one, but I will say the term CGI versus like AI, like CGI artists, they're also full-time artists, right? Like that's someone who's going through and rendering step by step. They're making a conscious decision and not allowing an algorithm to do it. I think that, but I do hear you, right? Like some visual artists, I'm sure there was a period in time when it was like, hey, CGI is just breaking in. People are like, oh, this is hubbub. This is ridiculous. And now it's like, okay, well, this is another step where it's like, okay, well, how do we work with this? And I'll sound like a broken record about this, but you have to acknowledge as a creative, when you are growing in your field, AI is not going anywhere. Like you can be mad at me for saying that, but AI is going to be a part of our culture. And so learning how to adapt to that or use it as a tool set, or if you are a purist, and that's okay. If you are, I'm just going to do my art that way. Have your tone of voice and why you talk about it that way, and let people understand that. And specifically to this conversation around content creation, if you are a UGC person, you're like, I will never allow AI to touch my stuff. Just make sure you have your messaging behind that and the reasoning when you are pitching brands to do business with them, right? Because a lot of this is, hey, brand, I want this from you. You want this from me. And they say, okay, well, we've taken your content and then dropped in some AI clips. If you're against that, make sure you communicate that within this story. And if you're a brand who doesn't want to use AI, make sure your creators know that, because they might use AI audio. They might generate audio clips for behind them. They might run a silly video behind them. There's been one that's gone viral on TikTok lately where this lady's got cats running over her face time and time again. And she wakes up and goes, are you insane? And people were like, oh, it's so funny. And then people recognize it was AI and everyone's like, I had no idea. This is terrifying. And it's like, yeah, dude, you can generate content, like you can make it look real, but you have to understand kind of where you stand, right? Your values within it.
Yeah. Are there As we kind of get to the end here, are there key things that you thought would come up in the conversation today, or questions you have for me? Because I like to just free roll like with these conversations as a whole.
Yeah, I love them. Honestly, like this type of conversation is super fun to me too. I don't have anything at the front of mind for me. If there's anything that you think some of your viewers would get a value out of, if there's any questions that you've seen in the recent past, I'm happy to kind of converse about those. But for me, my overall, again, I just kind of said is like, make sure you understand where you stand with an AI, understand that it is here to exist. As a content creator, make sure that you are, if you do approach, this is kind of like for the people that are just trying to break into this, but when you approach a brand, make sure you're showing your value proposition. And if you are a brand approaching a UGC creator, make sure you actually have a plan of attack. Don't just say, hey, do this. Understand your brand strategy around it. Understand why you've chosen this person. You're not hiring someone per se, but you're not hiring a new employee, but you are hiring someone that's going to represent your brand, right? Have a conscious decision around that. So make sure that partnership makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Josh, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for being a great friend, partner, supporter of the network. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Everybody, thanks for listening in.